Hello, my name is Nikisha Moore, and to start my presentation, I am going to recite a poem, author unknown. It is called She Don't Break. She don't break, nah. She bends like branches in a storm, but baby, she bounces back in full bloom. She's got galaxies in her gaze and fire in her womb. Born from struggle, but dripping in grace. She walk in rooms like she owns the space. You see her? That's Black woman magic. That's Sunday morning and Friday night. That's holding it down and lifting it up at the same time. She wears the world on her back like a coat. Zip it up, throw on heels, and still take notes. She's mother and maker, healer and truth teller, a soft place to fall and a steel-spined rebeller. She don't just survive. She redefines. Turn pain into poetry, oppression into shine. She ain't waiting for permission or praise. She's been the blueprint in a world that copies her wave. Don't call her strong like it's all she can be. She's soft too, like prayer, like peace, like poetry, whispered in the dark when the world gets too loud. So the next time you see her, say her name with some weight, because she ain't made to shrink. She's made to create. She don't break, she builds, and baby, she heals. That poem resonates with me because this is who I grew up seeing in my mother and my aunts and my grandmother. This is who I have become to love. And it's taken me a long time to get to this point to love myself as a strong Black woman. Today, I'm going to speak about my two salient identities, and that will be the ones that I chose are Black and low income. And so I'm a African-American Black woman who has had a low income for years now, and I'm still considered low income. The privileges that I have being Black, I love my heritage and I love my ancestors, and just knowing that I've come from a long line of people who are intelligent, who are strong, and who have made a way and been resilient. That's a privilege of being Black, knowing that you have that background. Another privilege is our community. I know when I was growing up, I grew up in a military household, and my father was in the Army, and my mom, she helped raise, she did most of the raising because my dad was always going on deployment, or he'd be stationed somewhere and we'd be in another state sometimes, not often, but sometimes that happened. And I saw my mom have to, go out and get a second job or rely on my aunts or my older cousins to watch us, my grandmother, just seeing them, make things happen. There were times that I didn't even know that we were struggling, but she did what she had to do in order for us to make it. And, that has taught me a lot in my adulthood and my raising my kids. I am also privileged being Black because of my skin and because of my hair. And I'm proud I'm proud to look in the mirror and see who I am. I'm proud of the way I look. I'm proud of that my hair is kinky and that, I may not be the smallest, but, I'm proud of who I see in the mirror. Another thing that, I feel like I'm privileged by being Black is the strong sense of spiritual health that I have. I was raised in a Christian home, and just having that spiritual background and knowing that God is always with me, and that he would never put more on me that I can bear. I know that I can do things with his help. And having that background and having that mindset has also helped me, come through a lot of adversity in my life. Now, some things in reference to oppression and being Black is I've been stereotyped in a working environment, and I've been told you're not what I want my supervisors to look like, and I've been denied positions. I have gotten the looks, walking into places where Black people shouldn't be, or that's what their mindset is. Even this day and age, going to an area where there aren't a lot of Black people, and as soon as you walk in, everyone's staring at you and looking at you and wondering what you may do. I have also seen in my work history, I have seen the wrongful terminations, and I've seen the denied promotions, with my coworkers and being at work, and them, and the white people in that job got treated totally different when they committed some of the same things that the Black people were getting in trouble for, but the Black people were terminated and the others maybe had a suspension or they had an investigation and everything was fine. I've seen that. My son, I've seen, the disparity in the criminal justice system with my own son, and just, going to court with him and listening to the judges and listening to the lawyers and seeing different cases and things like that. And seeing the disparity outright where there are, people that are not Black, their sentencing or their punishments are different than the Black individuals there. So I've seen that as well. Let's see. The next one I wanted to speak about was being low income. Now, there has been privilege in being a low income person. Not everything has been bad. I have been able to go to college and pay basically nothing because of my income status, and receiving grants, and federal grants and, things like that in order for me to go to school that I don't have to pay back. So that is, that's one way that I have been privileged by being low income. Also with my children, when they were of school age, they were able to participate in programs that were based off of your income. Sometimes I wouldn't even have to pay for after school programs and things like that so that I could work. Being that low income person, I was able to, get them into some sports, after school activities. I didn't have to pay for lunch. That was a big thing because food was a big thing. I was able to get on assistance with food and health care. I never had to worry about my children not having the health care that they needed when they needed to go to the doctor because the state and government provided that for them. So those are some of the things that being low income has granted me. Also, in the process right now, in buying land, we own one part of the land, but the city owns the other. And because I am low income, the city may sell me this piece of land that is attached to mine that nothing else can be built on because of the size of it. They may sell it to me for $1. And that's a blessing. That's a part of, being low income as well. Being low income, I have learned to adapt. I wanted to mention in that, in the spent game that we played, I still ended up with money at the end of the month because I have the mindset of I have to make things work. So being low income, I've always had to adapt and to put things where they needed to be so that we could make it. Some of oppression of being low income. At times I haven't been able to afford housing, and I have not been able to afford food. I've had to work multiple jobs in order to pay bills and to pay rent and to pay car insurance and a car note and things like that. So I've had to go around, and deal with that. I've also dealt with stereotyping. My, going in to ask for help at times and being looked at like I'm lazy, like I'm not worth it, and like I'm just trying to play the system. And I never have. I've always gotten what I could get, but I was always a very hard worker. And so being looked at like I was less than just because I was asking for help, number one, it affects people asking for help. And number two, it makes you feel like less of a person sometimes because you have had to ask for help. And so those are, some of the things. And then just being a Black woman who is on low income, the stereotypes, and you get looked at differently. You get looked at differently. And even though I know, who I am, and I know the children that I have raised, and I've done a great job raising my sons, still having to go through and explain to them even how to be proud of themselves and not let how the outside is looking at them affect them and affect their minds. My son, one time, he was in school and he was a young little Black boy in kindergarten, and his teacher, instead of taking the time to see what was wrong with him, his teacher moved him away from everyone, and come to find out, he just had an undiagnosed case of ADD. But she didn't take the time. She didn't notify me that this stuff was happening. He had just started going to school because at the time I made too much for him to go to preschool. So he went straight into kindergarten, but he was almost 6 because of his birthday and they wouldn't let him go in school. So she basically shunned him and moved him away from his entire class because, she's not worried about the little Black boy who may be a little talkative or, who's disrupting, but again, not knowing or not letting me know what was going on. And so I had to go and advocate for him. Like, no, you will not treat him like he is no one. And she was a white teacher, and he ended up, she was like, oh, well, I just moved him because she didn't want to deal with it. And he wasn't important enough for her to notice. I didn't even get the information until I went to a back to school night. And I'm like, so why is his desk over here? And she's talking to all the other parents and everything like that. But, when I'm asking her questions, she's getting all flustered and, well, just because, and that made me feel really bad. And it made me feel like a bad parent because I didn't know. And he was my oldest, so I didn't know anything about the ADD or anything like that. I hadn't dealt with it. So just, things like that. And I had to advocate for him, and I got him moved, and he got moved into a different classroom, and where he was helped. He got all the help and everything that he needed. And he was very intelligent, and he was very, smart, but she wouldn't take the time to help with that because he wasn't worth the time. So yes, so that is my presentation. I think that it's getting a little lengthy, but, so yeah, so those were my 2 identities. And thank you for listening.